Right, good evening. Gosh, what a way to start. We announced our interim results actually earlier in the week, but I'm told that most of you don't know or haven't come across Vipera before. So what I thought I would do is start by telling you about what we do and then circle back and back to our interim results. So let's see if I can get that right page up. There we go. Okay, so we were formed several years ago by a Swiss banking system specialist and an Italian entrepreneur. And since then, well, when I joined the company in 2010, we were 6 people. Today we are some 100 people spread across several offices in London, obviously, because that's where our head office is. Actually, most of our people are in Milan, and we have staff in Zurich, Frankfurt, Madrid, Dubai. And we're spread around because our customers are fairly multinational. Now, let me explain what it is we do. I'm going to elaborate what we do, by the way, because it's quite a complicated thing. We sell banking systems to banks, so our customers are banks, and these systems allow them to offer their customers the ability to carry out transactions on a mobile, i.e. on a cell phone. And we actually, most of our early sales were in the Middle East. Why? Because in the Middle East, a lot of people typically don't have a laptop at home. They don't necessarily have the same branch network, but everybody had a cell phone. So there was much more eager take-up of our technology in the Middle East. Going back chronologically, though, we have also expanded into Europe. And you can see we've got a range of names there. Some of them you will know and some of them you will not. And they range from a tier 1 bank like Deutsche Bank. I'm sorry if you can't quite see that at the back. Tier 1 bank like Deutsche Bank, named like MasterCard and Visa, of course, you will know. And then you may or may not know in Italy, Intesa San Paolo, Mediolanum, Vipera. In the Middle East, these will be well-known names in their market. So I would like to tell you a bit about how we sell, because we're still a terribly small firm. So we have a mixture of our own sales staff, so we have 10 salespeople, but we also work with partners. Now, I know that the word partner is terribly overused, so what do I mean by that in this context? There's a range of different models we've got with people, but for example, TNIS over there is the leading banking systems integrator in Thailand. So we will sell them a system and then it's down to them to deploy it and install it and manage the customer. At the other end here, I won't go to all of these because I'm short of time. With IBM and MasterCard, for example, MasterCard will go to a bank and say, well, please, we'd like you to take our card scheme. We can offer you functionality and features. And if you want to offer these features to your clients, then we can just give you system development kit, APIs, manuals. And that's great if you're a tier 1 bank. You can probably do that in-house. But if you're tier 2 or tier 3, maybe not. You're more likely to say to MasterCard, who can you get to do it for us? And we're on a panel, quite a small specialized panel of people at MasterCard, and they all say, well, go to Vipera. So that's quite recent, actually. That's only just starting coming through with IBM and MasterCard, that sales assistant. But that's been very helpful to us. So what I would like to do, because it's terrible buying a company if you don't even know what they do, understand what they do, is spend a bit of time on what we actually do. And I've got this in 3 segments. Dark blue is our, if you like, our core business, our historic business. This business is all about enabling you to carry out a banking transaction using your cell phone. So in the same way that I'm sure all of you from time to time will get on your laptop at home, make a payment or whatever, or check your bank statement on your laptop, that we give the bank the systems which enable them to do that, to offer their customers the ability to do that using a cell phone. So, had I been standing here 18 months ago, this would have said mobile banking, but today we call it digital banking, and I'd like to explain why with a use case. So this use case is Mashrek. Mashrek, you've probably never heard of, but I will tell you that it's the biggest retail bank in Dubai, so they've got a very big market share. They've been a long-standing customer. They took a mobile banking system from us several years ago, and since then we've been adding to it and putting more features on, including, you'll see, much to your amusement, an iWatch there. So we were the first people to develop the ability to do banking on your watch, which was it was there. They loved doing it, so fine, we're happy to do that for them. But what they've come to ask us to do now is to unify the experience so that whether you are using Mashrek Bank online, i.e. with your laptop, or with a cell phone, or indeed, as you know, today you go into a bank branch and you don't meet a teller, you get confronted with a kiosk box, and you're telling that you've got a computer there and a big screen, and you tell it what you want to do, whether it's pay out money or pay in a check or whatever. So what we've done is enlarged our platform so that there's a unified experience across all three methods of banking at Mashrek, and whichever you use, you get the same user experience. So that's been quite a task, and that was actually, for those of you who know us, that was what was behind the big order we announced in April. We announced our biggest ever order of some 2.5 million euros. So that is what I mean by digital banking. There's another category here, light blue, mobile wallets and cards. And I'm going to, before I get on to that, let me tell you a bit about the business model on this, because their business models are different. With digital banking, the business model is the traditional idea that you sell a software license, they pay you to deploy it, you probably have some consultancy advice as well, and then once you've done that, you're going to get software maintenance thereafter. So it's very much a traditional software model. Going into this model here, it's probably best if I say a bit about, or show a bit about what that product is, and I'm going to chicken out by asking one of the technical guys, please, to run a quick video which will explain it better than I can. This is a BBC programme that was about us, and we exhibited at an exhibition, and the BBC came and reported on it. I hope the sound's going to work. We're going to say our prayers here. Okay, I tell you what, while we're waiting for the guide, let me tell you, you've got time, because I'm short of time, I'll tell you about the business model there. So the business model with this one is that the deal is the bank, because after all, the bank is our customer, they're going to pay us so much per user, per card, per year. So that's very much a model which is scalable according to what the take-up is. And indeed, there are two different ways in which we're doing this. With Deutsche Bank, we've actually installed the whole system at Deutsche Bank inside their firewall. With other customers, we are hosting it. So we call it software as a service, which is for us, it's a much more scalable way of doing it, actually. And with MasterCard, because I'm mentioning MasterCard promoting our products and services, this is what MasterCard are promoting to banks. And we've just won our first bank in Texas, in USA. None of us have had to even go out there. It can all be done remotely from the cloud. And I'm getting a thumbs up at the back, so let's give it a go.
Well, it may not be scientifically accurate, but they do say that money makes the world go round. And these days, technology helps give it a little extra spin. And so today I've joined the suited financiers at the Finovate conference in the City of London, where the latest apps to help us spend our money are being shown off. If If it's simple control of your cards you're after, Vipera is an app that aims to help.
It gives options like being able to tell it when you're travelling, so your registered cards will be expecting you to be abroad rather than causing security alerts each time you use them. So here you can input any travel details. You can also select options like not allowing any online payments, so that you can choose exactly what you want your card to be used for and when.
You can register your cards and then look through your transactions, seeing them turned into some nice, if not a little scary, graphs. Then, from learning your habits, it'll also provide personalised location-based offers, something this event showed there was a growing trend towards. Deutsche Bank have been the first to sign up to using the app.
Yeah, sorry, a bit of an abrupt end on that. Anyway, there we go. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so if you were going to, staying with this fella, if you were a customer of Deutsche Bank, they would say this is available, and you would go to an app store, find Meine Karte, that's what it's called, Meine Karte, and download it onto your cell phone, and away you go. So that is that. I think the only thing I haven't told you about that is that whereas with mobile banking, what we're doing is reaching behind the bank's own firewalls and into their back office systems. With this, we're reaching behind into MasterCard systems, and we're actually therefore integrated. That's why it said integrated with MasterCard in control, which is part of the functionality that they need to provide for us to do that. Okay, let's go back to the third bit. A third business segment, customer engagement. Customer engagement tends to come in two flavors, actually, and it's probably best if I illustrate those with a couple of case studies. I'll go straight on to those. Okay, so here's one in São Paulo. We did not supply Intesa with mobile banking. They built that inside them, because they're a big bank, they're a big Italian bank, and they built that internally. But what we do happen to have, which I haven't mentioned yet, is we have a team of people who are big database specialists and analytics specialists. And the thing about a bank is they have, you're going to relate to this because I've been listening to what you said, a bank has a huge number of transactions going through their system, so they're seeing how much money gets spent by whom on what. And what we're doing for them, therefore, is analysing that data and creating propensity models. Now, okay, probably everybody would use a different word, but anyway, so we call it propensity models. What do I mean by that? Suppose we can say to, enable a bank to say to a retailer, let's say the retailer specialises in ski equipment, and they may say to the retailer, wouldn't you like to pitch special offers at a group of our customers who spend more than €1,000 between November and January on ski equipment? Try it out. So a special offer goes out through our platform, because this is the bit we built, is the platform, and the software is behind it. And then the business model is that as something is spent and people spend money and buy something, then the bank gets a commission out of it, and we share that commission. So that's our business model. So that is using big data analytics. Okay, so let's go back to this. I'm still talking about this one now. So I've got another case study, which is a slightly different model on, and I'm keeping an eye on the time. There we are. Oops, here we go. This one here. Okay, so what does this do? First of all, Media Market or Media World is a very large European equivalent of Dixon Comet. So they have a chain of stores selling electrical equipment and computers and so forth. They have a problem that people go into their store, look around, talk to the salesman, pick his brains, and then they go home and buy it on Amazon. That's pretty annoying for them. So what we do is we produced a software system which enables them, and all these things, by the way, whether it's Intesa São Paulo or this, it's all locked in for the customer to say yes, they want it. And obviously we have to be very careful about all the data protection stuff. Okay, but just take that for granted. What does the software do? The software, first of all, gives the customer ability to find out more about a product which they're looking at. So it can detect if a guy is standing in front of a particular TV, it knows that. because it's using all sorts of location technology. And it gives the customer the ability to say, okay, I like that, and he can whip his cell phone out and he can buy it on the spot using Media Market's own online buying system. So he can be in the shop, he can buy it from the internet shopping experience from Media World, and he can have it delivered to his house. And there's a whole range of other functionality. The guy can do a price comparison. MediaMarkt can then spot the guy doing this, and bless you. The guy can spot the guy doing this and make a special offer to match the, say, an Amazon offer, because the system is looking at what Amazon might charge and match that price. So it's a bit of a John Lewis syndrome, if I can put it like that. So that's gone very well, and you can see we've got some other comments. It's only just recently gone live. It's integrated with IBM back-end systems. Those of you who there might be some of you who have followed us, it's using some beacons and Philips lights, so it's a big brother-ish this. Philips are bringing out all sorts of technologies, including technologies which are using the flickers and the light to interact with a cell phone, and it knows where you are in the shop. Because I'm sure you all know that when you have a cell phone on, the GSM towers can triangulate to where you are. You know, it knows that we're in this hotel, but it wouldn't necessarily know that Martin Perrin is standing in this corner of the room. But if you're in a system where you've got all the beacons, it does know that I'm here. So it's a bit big brotherish, but anyway. And it's going down quite well, actually, with Media Market. Okay, so, and again, with this, the business model in this product is not with this particular customer, because that was our first customer, but with this product, as we talk to other retailers, the business model is very much a volume-based project. Okay, so where did I get to? I think I talked about the product. I think I've told you about what we do. I'm going to circle back quickly to numbers. Right, okay, because we just announced our numbers. Well, come on. Okay, yes, financial highlight. Okay, so in our half year, June half year end, the revenue was up 15%. Within that, the deployment revenue was quite well up, but also our recurring revenue was up 38%. And recurring revenue from a very small, albeit as you can tell from a small base, recurring revenue is the software maintenance revenue, it is a per card, per user revenue, and it is the commissions and other types of revenue. The operating loss, $500,000, slightly higher than I have to say we would have liked it to be, but if you like, it reflects the fact that we're being brave and we've got our shareholders saying to us, look, you've got the money, use it to invest in your future and carry on expanding, because we're still in a very much a growth mode of expanding as fast as we can. We won a major contract during the half year, which is the Matrec one I mentioned. We've actually got some more initial contracts, one in North America through MasterCard. And then there's a couple of things which we're obviously working on during the half year, which came to fruition immediately afterward. One is an acquisition in Spain, where we acquired, sorry, I'm keeping an eye on the time. We acquired a company in Spain, our first acquisition actually, in recent years. And we also had an investment of $2.5 million from a bank. So the investment came from Seller Bank. Again, I'm sure you haven't heard of them, but they're quite well known in Italy for the fact that they are a leader in banking technology in Italy. They have a commanding market share of e-commerce payment settlement. So they're well up with that. And we've been working with them in the field of open banking and new banking systems. And us engaging with them on that led them to look more closely at us and say, oh, okay, can we please invest? And so that's why they put $2.5 million of their own money into our business. And I'm horribly hating that 1 minute. We can't add a naught. Can we add a naught to that? Damn. Okay, I'll go as far as I can. So I talked about the different sources of revenue. The point about this chart here is to say that we are very much second half loaded, and just the way it works out. It's not logical, but we typically have a much more revenue in our second half than the first. Probably partly reflecting banks liking to get projects done by their year end, and they typically have a December year end. Europe 70%, Middle East and Asia 30%, that's fine. And top 10 customers, 83% of our revenue. So you can tell we're quite concentrated in our customer base. I thought you might want to have a look at the balance sheet. Goodwill is from our Codden Date acquisition. I didn't have time to tell you about that. Now, I'm eating into question time. Intangible assets is the amount of money we have capitalized in developing all our platform and our systems. I will say we try and be very careful not to capitalize things unless we really see that it's going to fit squarely. So we try to be cautious of that, because any old fool can flatter their account by capitalizing everything, so we try not to. But the audience for that is not just investors and shareholders. The audience for that is also our customers, where you're showing them that we continue to invest in the platform. And I think the only key thing here is trade and other receivables is down in a half year, but it'll go back up and again in the second half for two reasons. One, because the revenue will be higher in the second half. And also, actually, it has to be said, banks are pretty mean about flattering their balance sheet by holding on to cash at the year end. And so you typically find that receivables escalate in November and December, which is a bit annoying, but that's a fact of life. I've got a bit here about major shareholders. Nebin Jarman is a Norwegian family office, and their chairman sits on our board. Banker Seller, the bank I've just told you about, that's our chief executive. Octopus, I'm sure you've all heard of. That's our chief technology officer. These are people who were invested in our acquisition, and then there's a range of others behind that. And I'm gonna not eat too much into question time. Bear with me, and I'll just talk you through this one here. So we arrive at a half-year end, and we look at what's in the bag in terms of revenue for our target, reaching our target for the year. And if we look back to last year, we had 6 million. This is all euros, by the way. Everything we do is in euros. I'm sorry about that. That's where we are. And this year, it's up a fair bit to 8.5 million. And then, and that's of the revenue for 2017. There's more backlog, so to speak, into 2018 because we've got stuff which we know won't be billable until next year. And then we've got a whole load of stuff here which, if you like, it's in the pipeline, and therefore you can see that stuff we need to win and then create to the point where it's billable in order to achieve our revenue targets. But that has come on, that's a huge increase, and very largely driven by the strategic relationship we've built up because we've been investing in our own salespeople and in their developing relationship with people like IBM and MasterCard. And at that point, because you're scowling at me, I'm going to stop and allow you question times.
Thank you. Questions then, anybody? I hope somebody's got some questions after that. But I have. Anybody got questions? No? Oh, yes, gentleman just there.
A couple of years ago, people like you were doing mobile banking, and it was the most fantastically crowded market, with everybody trying to put everybody else out of business. Who are your competitors, and why are you going to succeed?
Right, okay, so why are we still standing? Good question. Okay, we all know things go in and out of fashion. I would say to you that our biggest competitor is the in-house IT team, especially at tier one banks. They would rather do, they would perhaps might find it more cost efficient to do it in-house, or so they think. And also the IT team, of course, are going to say, we want to do that because it's new and sexy. And it's a lot more interesting to build a mobile system than it is to be sorting out an old COBOL-based banking system. So that's our biggest competitor. And then we actually, we operate in a world where there's a lot of competition for what we do. And there's a whole spectrum of people. There are people like Accenture, who are advisors in a lot of banks, systems integrators, and it ranges all the way from that down to a couple of guys with an app, and they persuade a bank to take an app. But I would say to you that there's a huge amount more than just the app. The bit you see on your cell phone is just a tiny tip of the iceberg. It really has got no more than security credentials in the cell phone, so that when you go into a shop and you wave your cell phone over the terminal to pay for something, what is actually, your card is only virtually in the cell phone. It's not actually in the cell phone. It's just got some credentials which emulate your card. And there's a huge amount of technology sitting on the server to service that and to make it scalable. So you can relatively easy to make it work. But to make it work so that if in a minute 12:30 comes along, you get thousands of transactions hitting you, you've got to have proper banking systems which can cope with that. So there's a whole spectrum of people out there, and we just do our best at being the best.
Question right at the back.
Can you tell us more about the soft telecom?
Yeah. Okay. So soft telecom, we have our revenue growth over the last 5 years has been about just over 60%, and we're saying to ourselves, well, we still need to grow as fast as we can. How can we grow that faster? And one of the ways to do that is to make acquisitions. And in addition, we all know that it's much easier to sell to a bank if you can show an in-country presence. It shows more commitment to their market. It shows that you've got people on site, and therefore we've been looking for a while for an acquisition, and we found this company in Spain which hits a sweet spot. What is that sweet spot? It's right in terms of what they do. So they are effectively a programming shop. They do contract programming, but they are real specialists in payments. So that hits our sweet spot because we've got guys who know what they're doing. And it's a team of 20 quite young engineers, so they've all been freshly trained in the latest software techniques, so that also, they're going to fit in well with what we do. And by the way, they're delighted because they like the sort of stuff we're doing, so that fits well. They fit well in terms of size, so they had a turnover about 800,000. And it has to be said that we feel that we ought to take on a relatively small acquisition to demonstrate to our backers that we can do it and integrate it and make a success of it, and then move on to something maybe bigger. And they were a profitable company. They were selling because the guy who had set it up had reached 60-something, 7, and wanted to retire. So that also was a nice reason for him to be selling, and it all just fitted very nicely. And it all happened quite quickly, actually. It happened from beginning to end in about 3 months, with finding them, talking to it through, hitting the due diligence as fast as you can, and making the payment. So that's where we are.
A couple of questions down here.
Okay. Hi, just very quickly, just 2 questions. One, I just abhor the idea somebody's tracking me when I go to a shop. Yeah. Is that Google location, you switch it off?
Yes. Okay, so please let me stress that this sort of thing is completely opt-in. If you don't want it, don't take it. And I think I'm right in saying with the media market one, you can switch off the tracking, but it's you opting in.
Google location. The tracking is through Google location.
No, it's not Google location. It's a mixture of GSM locating.
Okay.
And beacons within a store.
Okay. Well, the stores have anything to say they have beacon tracking? The beacon tracking, will the stores say they have that?
The stores, well, obviously not all stores do have this. But a store who wanted to, I mean, you might meet these guys probably got other different technologies. There are lots of different systems that are out there. But with MediaMarkt, they have said, right, this is the sort of, we're going to be using this sort of technology in order to track people accurately. But please let me stress, it's completely opt-in.
Opt-in, okay.
Yeah.
The other one is that I do like is your options, like when you go abroad.
Yes.
You can select which cards you can use abroad, and the buying online, you can cancel that. That's really nice. Are there any banks in the UK using that or considering to use that? Because I think that's a very good idea.
Yes. Okay, so there are banks who can offer you similar functionality. I think we'd like to say ours is the most feature-rich. So You know how it is with a cell phone, and you want to enable or disable something. It's literally a case of opening up the app and pushing something across, and it's on or off. So if you say, right, I want to put a block on any card holder not present or internet transaction, and then you want to actually make one, all you have to do is get your cell phone out, re-enable it, make the transaction, cut it off, and you're done. And what part of this is doing is saving the bank the problem. We've been given examples of people who go out on a good night out and the next morning, where's my card? And in today you would say, oh, blimey, all right, well, I better play safe and phone up and cancel my card. With this app, all you have to do is disable it, and then maybe when you get home from work, you have a proper hunt and you find it in yesterday's coat, and you can re-enable your card, and you saved yourself a lot of trouble and you saved the bank money. So it's features like that which are feature rich, if you like.
So are there any UK banks that
Sorry?
are looking at it?
Oh,
I see Deutsche Bank is using it, but are there any UK banks using it?
No, thank you for bringing that point up. So as of today, we're not selling, although we have our chief sales guy, marketing guy is based in the UK, actually we're focusing all our efforts into what I might call continental Europe and into the Middle East.
Last question, just there.
Fascinated by your presentation, both the uses for your technology and the way you're marketing it. But I was interested in what the long-term plans are for the company. Do you see this staying as an independent, or do you see it being bought up by one of the big software people, like maybe IBM, who are you're selling to?
Okay, I'll know badge in the room. I better be diplomatic about what I say. I would say to you that as a management team, our intent is to grow the company, to make it bigger, and also obviously we want it to be profitable, because that's at the end of the day what it's all about. So, and by the way, there's other things I haven't even had a moment to talk about. It's my fault for talking too much. Don't worry. But there are other things which are coming through in the banking world, and you can grab me after if you want to talk about them, because I think it's really interesting what's happening in the banking world and the way payments are changing, and things like Apple Pay and Alipay. They're really interesting, and these all present great opportunities for us. So there's plenty for us to do, particularly as we enjoy what we do, so that's fine. As and when, if a trade buyer who comes along, well, fine, I dare say our shareholders will be very happy, but until then, we're going to keep going.
That's a yes then. Martin, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.